Hello everyone, and welcome to what is unfortunately the final round of the 2022 GPVWC Super League Championship. This is the round from the Brazilian Grand Prix. Autódromo José Carlos Pathé is the venue. You see the track map there. And this is a favourite. This is one where all of the drivers, I'm sure, are glad the championship is finishing. It's a real autodrome of speed and control. And it is a fantastic place to round out a championship. Unfortunately, we don't have a title fight on our hands today. The championships have been wrapped up in both the teams and drivers standings. You've got Yannick Bock already with the driver standings to his name. Leon Bock is already second in the driver standings. That is confirmed as well. And in terms of the teams, Evolution and Edge are going to be first and second respectively. However, we still have third in the championship up for grabs between three different drivers, and we still, of course, have the Brazilian Grand Prix up for grabs, which is the main prize to be handed out today. Here's Robin Panzer just starting his qualifying lap. We're at the start of a 15-minute qualifying session here, where the drivers get as many attempts as they can within those 15 minutes to set the fastest lap that they can, and then that will decide, of course, the order that they will line up on the starting grid. You guys probably all know the drill by now. This is the last race of the season, so even if you are new to GPVWC this year, it's unlikely that this is your first GPVWC race or Muta race, but even so, it's good to see you all here. I'm being joined today, unfortunately not by Russ McIntyre. Russ has been taken ill, unfortunately, which is a big shame, because Ross has been an awesome partner to me this year, and it's a shame we won't get to round off the championship together. But I would like to say thank you very much for jumping in his place, Menno Klont. Menno, how are you today?
I'm very well, and I'm looking forward to this final race of the Super League season. It's been a pretty long season. Not much to fight for in the championship, at least on the highest positions, but still enough to do in the lower positions. So still a very interesting race, and yeah, you want to start 2023 also great. So why don't you want to end it well? So I think it's a little bit on the line. I believe it's also very interesting who will get P3 and P4 and P5 at the Drivers' Championship, so that's a good fight. So there are enough fights, yeah, for this race. So we shall see how it all ends up. But first qualifying, which we now have the fastest lap from Robin Panzer. So let's see how long that time will be staying. It's a very sharp lap time. So
Indeed, thank you very much, Menno. And indeed, our broadcast director today is Szymon Frelik, so he is behind the scenes pulling the strings and whatnot. Here's Yannis Vorburn, one of the drivers who has driven in all but one of the rounds this season. Unfortunately, there have only been a few drivers who have managed to make every single round due to real-life commitments and whatever, but that's what happens when you have drivers who have jobs and school and whatnot in their day-to-day lives. But anyway, we appreciate everyone who has been able to turn up to every round and everyone who has made it to all of the races that they possibly can. There's only one car missing today that I can see. We don't have the second Burst car, so Panther at the top there is carrying the hopes of the entire Burst esports team today. But it looks like pretty much every car that could be out there today is out there today, and that is always good to see. Here's Geoffrey Fournier about to complete his first lap of this session. His first two sectors have been quick, and he comes across the line now to complete a flying lap. 1:08.079. Looks as if it was the first sector where he lost the majority of that time. So Fournier only 14th as it stands. He's definitely better than that. Here's Matthias Moos, another driver yet set a lap, as only the top 20 cars have set laps so far. Oh, very quick second sector for Moos. That's a true purple, fastest of anyone, not just a purple that means he's fastest or faster than the lead time. Across the line he goes, P1. So Matthias Moos takes provisional pole position, but only by 15 thousandths of a second. The top three are separated by less than a tenth of a second right now, and in fact, the top 22 are separated by less than a second. Of course, this is quite a short circuit, so it's... And Stepkovsky goes to the top, sorry. So Stepkovsky goes on a 1:07.575, and that's within a tenth of a second now of the top time we had from the practice server, which was set by Matthias Moos.
Yeah,
They're getting quicker, Menno.
A lot of drivers going faster. I see Thomas Harvey with a green sector 1. I see Maciej Mlinek with a green sector 1. And Thomas Wack and Tom Stevens, as well as does Leon Bock. So we will see quite a bit of improvements on this, I think, second run of laps. So let's see what Thomas Harvey can do. Don't think it will be pole position, but I think it could be a good improvement in time still. Will he...
Towards the line, and it's P5. Oh, and Rourke goes to the top. So Stefan Rourke goes to the top now with a 1:07.536. Here's Tomasz Vok. Another improvement, goes P7, and up to the top now goes Yannick Bock. So Yannick goes to the top, and the top four are separated by less than a tenth of a second. That's what happens when you have a track this short and a field this tight. So Yannick now 1:07.496. Is the time to beat. That's only 2 thousandths of a second slower than the top time we saw on the practice server from Matthias Moos. So still a tiny bit of time to be gained potentially, but plenty of time left in the session to do it. We're about halfway through this session now, and the order is Yannick Bock leading from Stefan Rohr, Daniel Stepkovsky, then Panther, Moos, Winnick, Harvey, Watt, Shepard, and Denahan. And if you're wondering about the fight for P3 in the championship that I was talking about earlier, and the drivers to look out for, the drivers you have to keep your eye on are Stefan Rohr, Matthias Moos, and Maciej Winnick. Those are the three, as Yannis Vorburn goes for a spin.
Yeah, we've got Yannis for a spin. But that shows just how hard those drivers are all pushing. They're pushing so hard that they just try to plant the throttle as early as they can, and then sometimes, yeah, just too much for the car even, and they spin. But yeah, they're pushing really hard, and it is unbelievable to see how close the whole field is. It's a short track, yeah, I know, but if you look at P20 is only 0.6 of a second behind. Just you can't time 0.6 of a second, and it's not that much, and that's how close it is. So yeah, I think we can be very happy how close it is. But yeah, still the more usual suspects in the championship are now P1 and P2, and let's see what the rest will do. We now see Heigo Poom, who has got green sector 1, green sector 2. Let's see what he can end up. I think he can jump quite a bit, but actually goes into the pit, so that's interesting. So I think he already made a mistake maybe, or didn't have enough fuel, so that's why he came in. Well, I now see Geoffrey Fournier going really quick. I don't think it would be pole position, but it could be very
Yeah.
well up top 10.
He's losing a lot of time in the first sector though, goes 15th only. Here comes Oren Magorki, big gain in the second sector. Looks like the second sector is the one where people are climbing right now, and that would be a tremendous position for Oren Magorki if he was to start from P8.
Ooh.
And Matthias Moos goes to the top now, 107.447 with the fastest second sector of anyone. I knew that was the sector where the majority of the improvements were going to come from. Tom Stevens crosses the line. Meanwhile, Daniel Stepkowski is fastest of anyone in the second sector, so improving even more. And his first sector was very quick as well. Look at that. This is... Oh, and he's in the pits. So Stepkowski bailing out of the lap obviously wouldn't have had enough time, or fuel, sorry, to go for another lap to get back to the pits. So obviously decides that he wants to go for another lap later on in the session when the track is more rubbered in. There's Thomas Harvey improving. Robin Panzer fastest of all in the first sector now. A true purple, so even quicker than what Thomas Harvey has just done. Meanwhile, sorry Menno, we've actually gained another driver during this qualifying session. Arda Erkan has joined in for the Green Stripes team. Meaning we have 26 cars here. The only two that we're missing by my reckoning are one burst car and one Pescara ADG. Into the pits goes Harvey, so no improvement. Robin Panzer still improving, Menno.
Yeah, I believe that one Pescara car might be still on his way. So we shall see if that actually joins. It's another lap from Robin Panzer. Can he improve? Actually can improve P3 with a purple sector 3, and I think this shows that the track is getting faster by the minute, and that's why drivers don't want to do their final hot lap now. So if they're going purple but don't have enough fuel, they will come in because they know minute after minute the track will be faster. So you want to put that best lap in on the track near the end of the timing. So yeah, you see it. Everybody is quick. Can even see it here. You now see Hygo, and his first sector was really close to P1, just so that it already shows that how good the track is. And then second sector, okay, he lost quite a bit of time, but I think it still will be a very good improvement for Hygo Poom. Where can he jump to? Yeah, P21. But I think he gained quite a bit of time on his fastest lap, so I think quite well done from Hygo Poom.
It looks to me as if the drivers who are faster in the first sector are slower in the second, and then vice versa. The third sector is a little more up in the air because that's just pretty much just a climb up the hill, so that's setup related potentially. But anyway, keep your eye on this. Jeffrey Fournier onto another lap, and this first sector is where he loses his time. Hooks it into the curb there. There's a nasty sausage curve, or it's not quite a sausage curve, it's a nice nasty serrated curve on the outside, which catches you off guard if you're not careful. Hook it over both the X's, the apexes through Ferradura, and then he turns into the Senna S. This next corner is Bico de Pato, I believe, which I still think means Duck Bill, although someone should definitely correct me on that if I'm wrong. Down through Curva du Sol, and then up towards the final corner of the lap, and this isn't a particularly good one even for Jeffrey Fournier in this session. Sorry, that came out slightly mean sounding, but Jeffrey not improving and coming into the pits.
No, but you were right with that. I think there was a little bit of a problem with the turning in going on the final, the final straight. So you already saw it was a bit out of shape, so he can pit and go for another lap, so that's what he does.
And Matthias Moos coming into the pits as well, despite only just being off the pole time, and a true purple in the second sector for Tom Stevens now. A personal purple for Stefan Roll in the first sector. Here comes Tom Stevens, and he goes into the pits. Stefan Roll about to complete this particular lap, unless he comes into the pits too, which he does. Everyone wanting to be out there right at the last minute. And who can blame them, really? There's Arda Erkan, who has some time to be found, although I get the feeling that he was called up to do this race quite last minute. Into the pits, Maciej Winnick now, setting up for his final flying run. Made it back to the pit lane, which of course means that he's allowed to go out again. Chris Shepherd setting up for one last flying run himself. He went up to 8th quite recently. And pretty much the entire field, the top 24 right now, are separated by just 0.8 of a second, still showing how close the cars are. It's helped by the fact that this is the shortest circuit on the calendar as far as lap times are concerned, dueling that out, or it would be dueling that out with the Red Bull Ring. But yeah, very close in terms of times, the two circuits. The Red Bull Ring technically a little longer, I think, in terms of its distance. Here comes Jan Dragoon up the hill towards the start-finish line once again. And he is currently only 23rd in this session, coming to the end of his first season of GPVWC competition and improving his lap time there.
Yeah. Good improvement, but still P23, but it's also close. When we now see Heiko had a bit of a worse first sector, but maybe he can get it back in the second sector.
This is the most important part of the session. The drivers will be going on to their final flying laps about now, and these final flying laps are sure to be the quickest. Not sure to be the quickest. I think that was a slight misrepresentation. It's more like they're most likely to be the quickest, providing they get them hooked up. Yannick Bock improved in the first sector there, so Yannick is getting quicker. Stefan Roth's time was only just off. Chris Shepherd doesn't look to be improving, and there is Yannick Bock, looks to be about a 10th up on the lead time in the first sector. Hooking it through the middle corners. There's the checker flag ready and waiting for him at the end of this lap. Only left-handers to go on this lap now. It's a real roller coaster ride, this final sector. That braking zone's tricky. You've got to line up the corner well, and then it's so easy to put the power on too early. Away he goes up the hill. It's a decent second sector as well. I think he might just scrape out pole position. Across the line he goes. He goes second, and Yannick Bock goes first. So Matthias Moos, was also improving. Stefan Roth jumped up to second. Daniel Stepkowski fastest of all in the second sector. Here comes Matthias Moos across the line, and there's an improvement for Matthias as well. He stays third. Stepkowski goes pole. Stepkowski goes pole. Winnick can only manage sixth. So it's Stepkowski first, followed by Bock and Moose. Here comes Thomas Harvey now, also potentially improving. And I think this is the last chance for anyone to snatch away pole. What does he do? It's only seventh. So I think that's it. I think that is the order. I don't see anyone else improving out there. Daniel Stepkowski takes pole position by only 15 thousandths of a second. The top three are separated by 300ths of a second. And pretty much everyone, the top 24 cars, separated by just 1 second in all of this. A very close qualifying session. Slightly exaggerated by how short the track is, not going to lie, but even so, that is the recipe for a truly fantastic race. What do you make of that, Menno?
Yeah, it's very, very close, but it is interesting because I think, for a hot lap, you need to have a fast sector too. But for racing, being fast in sector 1 in 3 is much more important, because then you will be able to do the overtakes. So I think most teams looked at maybe sacrificing the sector 2 a bit to be faster in the actual race with sector 1 and sector 3. So I wonder how they all set it up. So could be we've got some fast drivers here who might be not that well prepared for the race, depending on how they what they did with the setup. So now we see the next group from 11 to 20, and number 20, Dylan Platt, only 6/10 off pole, and that's insane if you see how close that still is. So I think that's really good.
Unbelievable stuff. The only driver who was slightly outside of that second margin was Arda Erkan in the Green Stripes car. Again, he only joined partway through qualifying, so we can't really blame him for that. And there's a chance that he didn't actually know he was doing this race before that. We will have to sort that out with him and get to the bottom of whether that was actually the case. David Yunt, once again, continuing his form of not setting a qualifying time. He does tend to just let it all happen and then start from the back comfortably, or start from the pit lane sometimes, doesn't necessarily intend to be racing that Stax car for much longer. This season, he was advertising that car for other drivers pretty much the whole way through, but they struggled to find a driver who could make every round. So David Yunt kept turning up, kept putting in the laps, and he's actually scored a couple of points every now and again as well. Scored 3 points in Monaco, which was valuable for both the team and, of course, his own bragging rights or whatever, because points at Monaco are never a bad thing. This race is going to be a full Grand Prix distance. It's just like it will be in real life in a couple of weekends. 71 laps is the race distance, and over a 4.309 kilometer circuit, well, you do the maths, but it works out to about 310 kilometers in total. This is the final round of this 2022 championship, and what a championship it's been, Menno. I know that we didn't realistically have a close championship fight for the majority of this year. It looked fairly close at the beginning. Unfortunately, Yannick at that point was just about to launch a supercharged attack, taking 8 podiums in a row from Monaco through to Singapore, 4 of those being victories, and from that point on he was pretty much unstoppable. But actually, each individual race, in my opinion, has been really, really entertaining this year. There have been different styles of strategy to it, where in some races you'll have drivers trying out alternative strategies and then coming through the field and coming out of nowhere to lead in the latter stages. You've had more straightforward two-stopper races where you've got to fight for it on the circuit. You've had races of attrition where drivers have tested each other's nerve, for example Singapore, and you've had everything in between as well. These races have dished up a bunch of different flavors of Grand Prix racing, of GPVWC action. And it also means that today is likely to be much of the same. We don't really know what to expect until we are partway through the race, Menno.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of it all. Yeah, to be fair, Yannick Bock did an amazing job this year, as he did, I think, the last couple of years. But his all his results in the last 4 seasons show that actually one title wasn't enough, and now with already clinched his 2nd title, he's one of the true greats in the league. And I think it's very good for Yannick to be in that position. He can be very proud on it. And I think he wants to end on a high. I think there are a lot of drivers who could potentially, for this race, could actually make life for Yannick really difficult, and for his brother. But it will be a very close race, and I'm looking very forward to, 71 laps of pure excitement.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah.
And there is Yannick Bock, and Yannick, of course, even though he's already wrapped up the championship, will love to round it out with a win. That would just be the icing on the cake for him, and he's very glad, I'm sure, to have already wrapped up the championship, because don't forget, a year ago, and he won't like us rubbing this in too much, but a year ago he hadn't quite wrapped up the championship yet. He came into the final round leading it. And then it looked as if he was going to win the championship for the majority of the race, until the very last lap when Stefan Roth was able to pass Colin Spork for the lead. And Stefan ended up going on to snatch the title away from underneath the nose of Yannick Bock. This year, he's had complete redemption. Stefan's come good in the second part of the year, especially kind of towards the middle or the early second part. That was when he had his real kind of renaissance this year, but he had a really tough start to it, and it was clear from the early stages that Yannick and Mache and some of the other drivers were going to steal points away from him. Stefan got to the bottom of those issues eventually, and actually coming into this final round, he is the favourite for 3rd in the championship. Stefan currently 3rd in the championship, sitting on 151 points ahead of Matthias Moos, who is also on 151 points, although of course would lose the championship, or lose third in the championship on countback, due to Stefan Roth having one more victory than Matthias. And Maciej Winnick is the only other driver in contention for third in the championship, 6 points behind the two of them coming into today. And Maciej should, you must say, he should probably be higher than that. Unfortunately, he's had to miss 3 rounds of this championship, and we don't know the reason for that. I expect there are people who do know the reasons for that, but Maciej hasn't told us directly. And he missed Italy, he missed Japan, and he missed Mexico, but he's back for today to challenge for this third place in the championship. Unfortunately, he hasn't actually scored points since Hungary, because he DNF'd both in Belgium after having a crash, and then in Singapore as well. So he is well overdue a good result, is Maciej Winnick. And personally, I would not put my money against him for getting P3 in the championship today, even though he is 6 points behind both Stefan and Matthias. Just to run you down the rest of the championship standings, of course, the 2 drivers I missed when talking about the top 3 were Yannick and Leon Bock. That's because they have already wrapped up first and second in the championship. Then, as I just said, Stefan Roth, Matthias Moos and Maciej Winnick are 3rd, 4th and 5th. Daniel Stepkowski is 6th in the championship, having made every round of it. Thomas Harvey is 7th in the championship, although he is he here today? Let me check the times quickly. I'm looking for a VBM car. Ryan Elliott has a VBM car. Jake Dennehan in the other VBM car. So no, Thomas Harvey is not here today, I'm afraid to say. Oh, of course he is. Sorry, I'm getting him confused with Dan Brewer. My goodness. Yes, sorry. No, Thomas Harvey was Holland Racing Team. Of course he is. It's Dan Brewer who is not here today. So, yes, my apologies. Okay, so Thomas Harvey is here. He is P7. Jeffrey Fournier, P8 in the championship. Daniel Brewer is the driver who is missing today. He is P9 in this championship, having picked up a win at Bahrain. And then Tomasz Rock rounds out the top 10 in this championship as we stand. And it's interesting to me, Menno, that at the very last round of the championship, the driver on pole position is yet to score a victory today. Do you think this is a statement of intent from Daniel Stepkowski, and what do you reckon he can do in the race?
Yeah, I do think it's he shows that he's on good form recently, and I think he wants to show that that he's ready for even better results next year, and I think he wants to sign off with a very good result. So yeah, let's see how far he can push it. Yeah, my question for it is actually, yeah, what is his setup? Is this purely a qualifying setup, which can, well, bring you to a very good position at the start, or is this really a race setup he's on his car? Because yeah, you need to have a bit of straight line speed as well. It's very technical, Caitlin, and yeah, you can go a lot of ways, and let's see if the guys who start well in this race, did they actually have a good race car, or did they want to start on pole and maybe they will lose a bit maybe on setup or on strategy because they went for another sort of strategy in the race. So it's all to play for, and this field is so incredibly close that yeah, I think more than 6 guys could win it. It all depends on multiple factors to start, and yeah, there are a lot of drivers with the skill level to be on the podium or win it.
Indeed. One important thing to bring up today, Menno, is that this is, unfortunately, we understand, the last race that VBM Esports will compete in for the foreseeable future. VBM Esports, run by Mike Pittman, are one of the most successful teams in GPVWC history. They won their first Grand Prix way back in 2007 with Laurent Keersmakers. They've won 2 championships with Rudy Van Buren in 2017 and Alex Siebel in 2018. They wrapped up the teams championship in both of those years, and I think it is a massive shame that they are not going to be on the grid anymore after this. We understand the reasoning for it, although unfortunately it doesn't doesn't make it any better that we're losing one of the most influential teams still running in GPVWC Super League. They today are fielding two drivers who are underrepresented, or who have been underrepresented in the GPVWC Super League so far this year. Jake Dennehan, who was fighting for the FS1 championship, finished third in that this year, and then alongside him, they have. Let me just find him on the live timing. I read out his name just then, so I should remember it. Oh, there it is. Ryan Elliott. Of course it is. Yes, Ryan Elliott. He is the other VBM esports driver out there today, who unfortunately we understand has a bit of a cold. So hopefully he goes well today, in spite of that. Ryan, a very quick young driver, races touring cars in real life from time to time as well, and also commentates alongside me sometimes as well. But yes, out there in the second VBM car. But yeah, Menno, just a few words for VBM in what could be their last Super League race.
Yeah, well, what should I say? It's one of the most successful teams in the league, and I think one of the oldest teams. From what I remember, I look a lot of statistics. They already went away, came back actually a few years later, but for now it seems for the foreseeable future this is the end of Red Bull or VBM esports. It's a team which saw a lot of highs, and they brought so much to the league. They brought us a lot of champions, a lot of they gave a lot of drivers their debut, had their own engine, which is Valiant engine is I believe one of the most successful engines in the league. So it's sad to see them go. Never say never, maybe they will return, but let's give them let's wave them goodbye in good spirits, and let's be proud of what they have achieved. They're fourth in the all-time entries. Only Nordstrom, Red Archer, and Woods Racing have raced more races than VBM esports.
Indeed, and you're right. Actually, the Valiant engine, that's a good shout. The winningest engine that there has been in GPWC. So a lot of the teams who were running Valiant engines are going to have to look elsewhere in the near future. One driver I think it's a shame we don't see here today, actually, is Pascal Polens, who won his first GPWC Super League race last time out in terrific form. Unfortunately, he is not running here today. He was only on a part-time schedule this year anyway. That was only his third GPWC Super League race that he ended up going on to win, which just made it all the more impressive, of course. But yes, he is not here today, but we still have a very competitive, very large field of drivers, and we have now gained the second Pescara car. So Alessandro Quinte has joined in. He is going to be starting from the pit lane by the looks of things, because of course he missed qualifying. But yes, that means we have very nearly a full house. It's only the second burst car that we actually haven't got here, Menno. Anyway, just a few seconds now, we're going to read out the full starting order for you. We have the cars underway for their formation lap, and this is how they will line up for 71 laps of racing. Daniel Stepkowski there is on pole, followed by Yannick Bock, then Matthias Moos and Stefan Roth, the first two rows of the grid. You have a couple of the contenders for third in the championship there. Robin Pansar has the only Burst Esports car, then it's Maciej Winnick. For Edge Esports, Thomas Harvey and Chris Shepherd. Owen McGorgy, a brilliant qualifying performance for MDR there, very underdeveloped car, and yet he's put at P9. Thomas Rock is P10, then Leon Bock is P11, already second in the championship, and Tom Stevens is P12. Then it's Jeffrey Fournier, Jake Dennehan, Jakub Lalu, and Fabio Sixter there. Sixter, who is looking for his first finish in a while. Yanis Vorburn, P17, Philip Pushke, P18, Augustin Canapino, P19, and then Dylan Platt, P20. And 21st, Hygo Poom, then it's Stephen Lexo, Jan Dragoon, and Ryan Elliott. And the final three rows of the grid will be taken up by drivers who didn't get the full qualifying session: Arda Erkan, David Yunt, and Alessandro Quinte. Menno, we've almost finished the formation lap already, actually. It's quite a short track here. But yes, that just means we can get the action underway quicker.
Yeah, that's very true. So quite a long race in terms of laps, but of course short laps. So we shall see what it will bring. Yeah, Yannick Bock will go for that win to put the cherry on the cake. So I would say he has a good chance. Daniel Stepkowski has got a really good chance, of course, from pole. But let's see what our 2021 champion Stefan Roel can do. He, of course, wants to end his championship on a high. So it will be very interesting. The fight for P3 in the championship will be very interesting, and also between a couple of teams we will have a very interesting race. We're about to race. Caitlin, back to you.
Yep, and have a look at the tyres too. Leon Bock, the top driver on hard tyres. Right, here we go. Ready for the start of the race. And when the lights go out, we'll be underway as we are now. It's go. Daniel Stepkowski leads down towards turn 1. He's made a good start. A slightly slower start for Yannick Bock, who's under pressure from Matthias Moos coming right around the outside. One of the Epic cars went off in the background there. So up into second place now is Matthias Moos. Yannick Bock down to third. Now we head down to turn 4. We should be able to see the first split soon. To the outside goes Yannick Bock, trying to come straight back at Matthias Moos. It's Stefan Roel who's going to take third now. Roel got the inside, and they're going to be side by side up towards Ferradura. And there's been a spin further back. Around the outside goes Stefan Roel. Now, I think Yannick will just have it. These are the two drivers who finished first and second in the championship last year. Had a terrific fight for the championship. Right here they touch. And around goes Bock. In front of the pack, tags, and there's a collision involving one of the Red Archers. Leon Bock is involved in that. Looks as if Tomasz Vok is off potentially, and there's another driver off there as well. There was another driver involved for sure. But yeah, both of the Evolution cars involved. And it's a shame because, at least they've already wrapped up the championship, but they're not going to be rounding up the championship how they would have liked. So at the end of the opening lap, it's Stepkowski leading from Moos, Panzer, Roel and Winnick. And here is Owen McGorgy now being passed by Thomas Harvey. Both of these drivers with a decent start. And up in front of them, Roel had to fend off Panzer into turn 1. Roel maintains P3, Menno.
Yes, well, it's going really crazy in the midfield with all the drivers. And I'm currently watching that battle, but yeah, we already got quite a bit of damage, which was of course sad to see, and they're fighting for every position, even in P16. And I see a fight between Ryan Elliott, Dylan Platt, and Steven Laxo, but I'm not sure what to watch. But at least for Daniel Stepkowski was a good start. Matthias Moos now in P2, yeah, and Stefan Roel in P3. It was an interesting incident, but it did cost Yannick Bock, of course, I believe a front wing or a rear wing. So it's that was sad to see, or maybe we had any damage. No, it wasn't. I think he didn't lose a front or rear wing. It was his brother who lost a front wing. So I think Yannick Bock didn't have, let's say, a loss of a front wing, but he lost a lot of time. So that's, of course, sad to see.
Yeah, and that was where he got collected by the drivers behind. So Yannick Bock was involved. Quinte is out. I don't think he was involved in it. So that is a shame to see. That must be separate. Tomasz Vok was indeed involved. Jeffrey Fournier is out of the race. We've had 2 DNFs already, and potentially more to come, I'm afraid. And Chris Shepherd was the red car that got tagged by oh dear, that's a little tag there between Hygo Poom and one of the Adonis cars, and someone else went over the grass, kicking up some of the dirt and the dust. The Adonis car in that one was Augustin Canapino, and he splits the two with Ryan Elliott right in the middle. Yannis Volburn up to 7th place. Great start from him. I was going to mention him as one of the top drivers on the medium component tyre. He is now the top driver on mediums, up 10 positions from his starting place. Amazing. Jake Dennehan, the top driver on hards right now. So those are the 2 alternate tyres to start the race on, and where they lie in the order as we speak. But yeah, amazing start from Yannis Volburn, avoiding all of the trouble. And Owen McGorgy still doing a very good job up there behind him in P8. Yeah. Another lap completed, Menno. The leaders still right together, and DRS is active.
Yeah, and a good thing to say is, we've got a spinner in P16, 17, 18. I think it was Dylan Platt who nearly spun or half spun onto Stephen Lexo, but I think they got away with it. What I noticed is that Arda Erkan, who, well, didn't qualify well because I think he entered quite late, his race pace is more than okay. Of course, there was a 2-second gap in qualifying, but of course, one lap is a bit more tricky to get right than maybe a race. So it seems to be having relatively a lot more pace than he had in qualifying. So he is doing quite well now. Arda Erkan now in P18.
Yes, indeed. So, oh, there's a replay of that big slide for the Pescara ADG car. Okay, back to real time. Here's Thomas Harvey with the DRS open. Someone coming into the pits. That may be a car who's a lap or so down. I'm afraid it looks to be Tomasz Wok coming in to potentially retire. 25 cars remaining as we talk. But yes, it wasn't supposed to be the case that Wok would come into the pits again. Harvey right on the back of Maciej Winnick now. Maciej fighting for P3 in the championship, although Moose and Rural both ahead of him at this point in time, and it would be Moose who would claim it if the race was finished like this. That would be a German 1-2-3 in the championship. I don't know what's in the water over there in Germany, but they clearly make very good R-Factor 2 racing drivers.
That's true. I think we saw in recent years Germans and the Superleague are a happy marriage, and it not works every year, but they are doing really well. Yeah, you see that. Yeah, it's very good to see. Yeah.
They end up with the top 4 drivers in Super League being German in the future, with Pascal Pollens coming up last time out. But anyway, here's another chance for Thomas Harvey. Has the DRS open here. The gap in front was about 0.3 per second, so this will tell us, okay, so you need to be about maybe 0.2 per second behind, maybe 2.5, in order to have a chance from the DRS activation zone to the braking zone. Maybe could have taken a dive, but it would have been very silly. That would have been a kind of last lap, last gasp type thing. Daniel Stepkowski still has Matthias Moose up for comfort up in front. The gap is just 0.9 of a second, fluctuating slightly but staying within a second. And that's the buffer, of course, the DRS detection gap. If you enter a DRS detection zone within a second of the car in front of you, you get to activate the drag reduction system on the next straight, making your car faster and meaning it's easier to overtake the car in front of you. Again, you probably all know how this works, but just explaining it for anyone who might not, and Thomas Harvey is about to demonstrate, as when he crosses the white line, which acts as the DRS activation zone, his rear wing flap will open, as it does there, and he gets faster and faster, approaching the tail of Maciej Winnick's car. But Winnick still has enough of a gap. Janis Woolburn approaching the two Holland Racing Team cars in close proximity. There's Fabio Sixter still running. There's a surprise. Of course, all of his DNFs recently, or the majority of his DNFs, haven't been his fault whatsoever. He's had horrendous internet and connection issues of whatever type. I think he's up to something like 10 DNFs in a row, is Fabio Sixter, which is crazy stuff. Hasn't had a finish since 2020, and it's a big shame as well, because he is a much better driver than that would suggest, and could potentially, I mean, he has been a race winner in the past. Yes, he's up to 10 DNFs in a row now, Menno. That's crazy. Honestly, props to him for continuing on, because honestly, I don't imagine that many other drivers would think they stood a chance when they had 10 DNFs in a row, but there he is running in P12.
The thing is, it's really demotivating for a driver if that's happening. I think if it happened once or twice, then it's still like you can accept it. But if it's happened time after time after time, and then it's just hard to digest. And especially for a team, if you're in a battle of a championship, then every point counts. And the drivers know that as well. And if time after time you will have a disconnection, then it's so demotivating for the team and for the driver itself. That's just not what you want to see. So
you do get the feeling that he's starting the race just for the fun of starting it nowadays, and it's just a matter of time before he disconnects. But anyway,
we'll give him
chance.
Yeah.
We'll give him chance. 8 laps of the race in now, so we're over 10% of the way in. The laps will appear to fly past today because this is a rather short Grand Prix circuit. If cars keep getting faster and faster in the future, then there's a real risk it might end up being under a minute, like the outer circuit of Bahrain. It won't be like that in the near future, because of course the modern Formula One cars are slightly slower than they were. These cars, of course, are based on kind of 2018 through to 2021 style Formula One cars, but when, of course, we do transition to the more modern style of Formula One cars, we will probably get slightly slower. But, of course, in the future, there's every possibility that the regulations might allow for cars to get even faster again, which would be quite a sight to be seen. Matthias Moos is keeping up with Daniel Stepkowski. Now, Menno, I think it's about time we started talking strategy as well, because we've seen some rather interesting strategies through the junior categories this week and last. About a week ago, I was commentating on Formula Sprint 1, and I saw one of the hardest races to read that I've ever seen in my life, where drivers seem to have changes of heart halfway through the race and decide to completely redo their strategy. We saw 2-stop strategies coming out on top in race 1, although quite late 2-stop strategies. It appeared the drivers came in at a time where they could have just run to the end of the race, as Stefan Rohr comes in behind, so we're about to see what he does. But yeah, I've completely lost my train of thought there. But yes, and then in race 2, it ended up being a no-stop strategy that worked, despite the fact the faster drivers ended up going for one-stop strategies and losing out as a result. So today we will have to keep an eye on strategy and see what people do. Stefan has obviously decided that the soft tyres aren't those to be run on for a long period of time. He's come in and immediately put on the hard set of tyres after just 10 laps.
Yeah, and that tells me that the hard tire is the tire you all want to be on. And I believe we see a lot of drivers already started on the hard, so I think that's the tire you want to be on. It also indicates that Stefan was on the red tire. That's more or less now time to go for a pit stop. Maybe Stefan was a bit early, but I think in the next couple of laps we will see the red starters pit for, let's say, the better tires. We see Matthias Moos now come into the pits, all very late braking, but not over speeding. So Matthias Moos now is in.
Indeed, from second place in the race. He was following Stepkowski so closely. Stepkowski has a bit of breathing room now, 5 seconds pretty much to Robin Pansel behind, but he won't feel like that at all. This is hammer time for him. He will feel like Moos is breathing down his neck even closer than before, because in a virtual sense he is. It all depends now on how their strategies align. And, well, first of all, whether Moos comes out in traffic here. There is some traffic going past him. It's not a particularly clean track here. He's going to slot in just behind the recovering Yannick Bock, who isn't going to be slow and isn't going to want to let him through here. So that's not the best of positions to come out in there for Matthias Moos. But now we wait to see whether Stepkowski will react.
It depends if that's a good or a bad thing, because I think Matthias Moos can maybe easily pass with DRS on Yannick. So let's see if he actually loses something. Maybe in Sector 2 he will lose something, but I think he will massively gain it at the DRS. So it might be slingshotting him. While he's still ahead of Stefan Rohr, who actually is losing more time. I think he is in more traffic. So
you hope that Yannick Bock is absolutely flying at this point. Stepkowski has now been in to make his stop, and he goes on to hard tyres. And now we wait to see whether that one lap of fresh tyres is going to be enough to put Matthias Moos in front of Daniel Stepkowski. It's going to be close now, out towards the pit exit. Watch the two of them. Hopefully we can get a wide angle shot. That is going to be very close now. They're side by side, heading down to turn 4. And I think Moos might just get it. Stepkowski still has the inside, but Matthias Moos takes the net lead of this race. Daniel Stepkowski just loses out, Menno.
Yes, I already was saying no, because I didn't believe that Matthias Moos would jump Daniel Stepkowski, but it was just when they went out the pits, there was just more speed in the car of Matthias Moos, so He now passed Daniel Stepkowski, and now it will be the DRS train, so it will be very interesting. While I'm now currently looking at the lap times.
Jim Winnick will briefly lead this race because Panzer and also Harvey are in the pits now. Harvey was behind Winnick before all of this. So it's now Winnick leading from Vorburn, and Owen McGorgy gets his time up in 3rd position. That's the highest an MDR car's run in a while. Panzer stopping on his box. He is the only Burst esports driver today. And there is Thomas Harvey pulling in right in front of him, just avoiding the front wing of Robin Panzer's car. And that looks like another set of softs, Menno. That could be a 3-stopper potentially. Tyre updating. Okay, I was going to say that looks a bit weird. We'll see on the graphic what tyres he's actually on in a little bit. So don't necessarily trust what your eyes are telling you right now. And we'll get that to you in due time.
Well, I think Mathieu Mlinek will be pitting rather soon, so we will keep an eye on that. But it's Matthias Moos now in P11 with Daniel Stepkowski P12 and Stefan Roel in P13. So they went for the...
Apparently Robin Panzer is on hard tyres now, so into the pits comes Winnick, and Vorburn has the opportunity to be out there for a while actually. We don't yet know quite how good the medium tyres are because we've only really been focusing on the soft and hard tyred runners. But now of course there are no soft tyred runners left in the race. They've all come into the pits. Pretty much only the top 10 cars started on the softs anyway. Winnick escaping from the pit lane. Now that's Owen McGorgy who came in just behind, if you were wondering.
I think he lost quite a bit. Mathieu Mlinek lost quite a bit of time, if I'm in all honesty. So
potentially, well, there's Thomas Harvey, so he's been jumped by Harvey now. So Thomas Harvey goes through, and there is Jan Dragoon, who they're now putting. Sorry, that's Arda Erkan who they're overtaking. Now, another thing to note is just how closely Vorburn and Denahan kept their cars to the top 6 in this race. Vorburn and Denahan, starting on harder tyres, really benefited in that opening stint, I think. Yanis has been flying, and both of these two have been some of the drivers of this race so far. Don't discount Tom Stevens either, our brand new Formula Sprint 1 champion. He is one to look out for there in 3rd place, although unfortunately I said that last time out at Mexico and then he really dropped off in the third part of the race. Fabio Sixter in the pits. Daniel Stepkowski is still behind Matthias Moos now, and this that you watch here could be the fight for first in the race later on, with Moos, Stepkowski and Roel nose to tail to nose to tail.
Yeah, what's very interesting to see, Yanis Bourbon is of course 2 seconds ahead of Jake Denahan and Tom Stevens, but Jake Denahan and Tom Stevens are on the harder compound, so they will be going longer. So the question is, do you want to have the 2 seconds gap, or is it more important to be on the harder tire now? So that's all what the strategy tells us. So I think the top 3 is quite evenly matched, and Philippe Pushkin is now in P4, not too far away, with Augusto Canapino P5, Aigo Poom now in P6, and P7 for Jukka-Pekka Lalu.
And the fastest lap of the race a couple of laps ago was set by David Yunt, very quick there, after setting, and Matthias Moos there, passing Jukka-Pekka Lalu on track. But yes, after being involved, or starting from the pit lane, sorry, after his qualifying letdown, not going out in qualifying, David Yunt going pretty darn quickly down in 22nd position there. So we'll keep our eyes on him later on in this race. Here's Stepkowski now trying to clear Lalu just as quickly as Matthias Moos did. That's not a good part on the course to catch him though, and Lalu knows that he's not going to be able to get past him just there, so holds his line, and they stay single file. He may still get lucky if Matthias gets held up a bit by cars in front of him. It may not actually cost him any time at all to be held up behind Jukka-Pekka Lalu, but it can't be helping. And of course, you've got to remember that Stefan Roel is right there and waiting to pounce as well. Woolburn's about to pit. I think the line he's taking So Yannis Volburn comes in. Jake Dennehan will lead the race on his hard tyres. Stevens also on hard tyres there, goes through to second. And what Volburn goes on to, because this is a different strategy to the ones that we've been commenting on so far in this race, and that's a move from Roel. Oh, he left that late, didn't he? That was close.
Yeah, and this is quite a battle, because now we will have him again. Roel will go for the straight line, and I think he will get him. Oh, but what will Stepkowski do is trying it. They hit each other. They don't hit each other, but they are side by side. This is really good battling.
And Roel gets the line, so Stefan Roel is through into what could potentially be net second in this race. Here we're going to see a replay of what's just happened. Now this is Roel slipstreaming both Lalu there and also Daniel Stepkowski down the straight. They get the kind of double toe from him, and Stefan decides then I've got to go for it, and they may have actually brushed wheels. It was so close if they didn't. And then Roel gets the run out of the corner, and a brave move to go to the outside of turn 4 to try to sweep through, and then to decide that he has the inside line for Ferradura. And look at that, it perfectly worked out. Now that was all down to choosing the outside line for turn 4 there. If he'd gone to the inside, he'd have been covered off. But Stefan Roel knows better than that and goes through into second position.
Yes,
I should say seventh position.
Yeah, seventh position.
Might be second.
Yeah, Matthias Moos now overtook Agustin Canapino for P5, so he's moving up, and I think Stefan Roel and Daniel Stepkowski are following soon. I am very happy for Roel. He did that move. I was very surprised that going into turn 1 he actually could get it stopped. And if you go for a move like that, then you really need to trust your brakes, that you actually can brake that late and actually you can get it stopped. And that was just perfect. And he couldn't pass it there, but then at the second DRS zone he actually could pass. So it was, I think, a very good move from Stefan. And he needs to overtake Canapino now quick if he wants to go with Matthias. Well, Matthias is actually already overtaking Hygo Poom. So while Daniel Stepkowski also overtakes Agustin Canapino, you now see the guys on the fresher, harder tire are now gaining a lot of pace in comparison with the drivers who are out there for longer.
To this point in the race where you stop measuring the gap by time and start measuring it by the number of cars that they've managed to put between each other. But anyway, there's Stepkowski now, one car behind Matthias Moos, with Hygo Poom splitting the two of them. Roel is behind Hygo Poom, and then Daniel Stepkowski right behind Stefan Roel still, after that very good move from Stefan Roel to get through to what was then P7, what is now P6, and what may be P2, if that makes any sense. Apologies if this is slightly difficult to keep up with, but that's just how racing is. Tom Stevens catching up to Jake Dennehan out in front as well. Look at that, pretty much every driver on hard tyres right now, except for David Yunt, who is on the softer compounder tyre, having started, I think, potentially on hards. Now we go through the final sector of this particular lap. This will be a move. Stefan Roel will line up Hygo Poom and go through on the inside into turn 1. There he goes. And now there's no cars between Moos and Roel once again, just a second or so. Stepkowski about to follow him through. Menno, I was about to say something very important. Can you remind me what I was about to say?
I have no idea what you wanted to say, so I cannot remind you what you wanted to say. What I do notice, the number 1 and the number 2, Jake Dennehan and Tom Stevens, are, it looks like more or less helping each other out. They're both on the same strategy. It's like there is, ceasefire. It's like they are not thinking of battling each other, because that will hurt their actual pace. So you see Tom Stevens is following Jake Dennehan, while I don't think Tom Stevens is necessarily quicker than Jake Dennehan, so they try to...
They're in the same voice channel apparently, so they are talking to each other. Dennehan is very twitchy and will be not going into the pits. They're going to go side by side. Yeah. So this is for the provisional lead of the race. Jake will be saying, "Don't hit me." Tom will be going, "I won't," and he goes through to the lead of the race. Side by side, further back, there's Moose on Pushkay. But yes, Stevens leads for the time being, Menno.
Yeah, what I wanted to say is they didn't fight too much because then they will both lose. But now I think you see that Tom Stevens might have been saving a little bit more tires because he's now actually quite a bit faster than Jake Dennehan. So now it's maybe time to push everything out of the tire and go for a stop in the next couple of laps. So very interesting what they do, because Matthias Moes is already much faster than the numbers 1 and the numbers 2. So I think they know they will be overtaken on track or off track depending when they make their pit stop.
Absolutely. So at this point in the race, I don't really want to... Ooh, another big twitch for Jake Dennehan. He's got to be careful. At this point in the race, I don't really want to make a guess as to how many pit stops there are going to be for some of these drivers. Because, I mean, you'd think from the drivers pitting that early that they'd be on for a 3-stop strategy. However, we don't know how good those hard tyres are. And also, it seems that the drivers really preferred the hards, so maybe they just decided to get off the softs as quickly as they could and go for a long stint on the hards. It's not going to be a 1-stop strategy, that's not what I'm suggesting, but a 2-stop strategy is potentially the most likely.
Yeah,
I say that, but we also got 2 stoppers in FS1, and that was a significantly shorter race, so it could be a 3-stopper.
I think it could be a 2 or a 3-stopper. I think the best thing from a 3-stopper is that you will have much more pace at the end. And in the end is the time you want to strike. So if you are much faster, then yeah, it could work with a 3-stop. But of course, 2-stop might be a bit more risky. But maybe that could work out for some. But I'm not sure what they are all planning. So I think we've got. A lot of different strategies, so let's see what they come up with. Tom Stevens now did a 11.1 with Jake Dennehan 11.2, and Matthias Moes much quicker with a 10.4.
Indeed, Stepkowski flies past Pushki there, makes another move, and Moes, Roar and Stepkowski are back together again in the order. Roar actually has DRS from Moes now, so that's interesting. That's exciting, I should say. Robin Panzer coming with them as well. Panzer is not just P6 in this race right now, but I'm pretty sure he's provisional P4 in the net order. Although, once again, I do feel that this is going to be one of the races where the net order goes out the window quite quickly, because there's going to be a lot of pit stops today, and some of them are going to, or some of the drivers are going to have a different number of pit stops to the others, I expect. Jake Dennehan, still pretty twitchy. I know you say they've been working together, Jake and Tom, although it's pretty difficult to organise a ceasefire between these two. They were big rivals in FS1 this year, 1st and 3rd in the championship. With Owen McGorgy, interestingly, who is also in this race. So we have a very strong FS1 contingent here at Sao Paulo.
I'm looking at the times, and I believe Matthias Moes is not yet in DRS of Jake Dennehan. So they will just continue. So it looks pretty interesting from somebody who already pitted and 2 drivers who didn't pit. And of course go a lot longer now than Matthias Moes, Stefan Ruo and Daniel Stepkowski did. Well, we've got Robin Panzer now in P6, and he's doing pretty well as well in that position, so can be proud on what he does now.
Indeed, so 24 laps into this race now. Still a long way to go, and it looks as if pretty much every driver is on the hard tyres right now. Even David Yunt, who was the only driver on soft tyres before, so it is a completely whitewashed wall of tyres there. Here comes Matthias Moes now on Jake Dennehan, and this will be quite straightforward. Oh, or will it? Dennehan there looked as if he wanted Moes to go to the right. Moes was like, nope, going to the left, and through he went. But yeah, that was a bit close, wasn't it? But anyway, goes through. Now we watch for Stefan Rolt to attempt to do the same thing, hopefully with a little less heart in the mouth. closeness, goes to the inside. Stevens also gets Denahan also gets the DRS, but Raw is able to go through quite quickly. Looks if Denahan maybe backed off a little there. I think he let him through quite easily, knowing that they were on different strategies and possibly a little spooked by Moose going to the left of him rather than the right as he expected. And yes, they both make it through.
Yeah, I think they're close to their stop, so they know they can fight it, but then they will lose more time, so they now accept the position loss because that would mean not a lot of time loss. So that's why I think they do that. But Tom Stevens is still leading, but yeah, Matthias Moos will be attacking now. Let's see when Tom Stevens and Jake Denham will go to pits. Will they pit now? No, they will not pit now. And
Matthias Moos will retake the lead. So down the straight, without even waiting for the pit window, goes through to the lead of this race. And in the background, that was Stepkowski getting past Jake Denahan as well. So some important moves going on at this point in the race. Now, Stefan Roth getting the rear wing open. That was actually one of the most important moves that Moose will pull today, especially in terms of passing drivers on different strategies, because now he's got clean air. Before, he just had another car to pass pretty much every time, but now he's got clean air ahead of him for pretty much the foreseeable future. There aren't that many lapped cars coming up anytime soon. It is quite a short track, so we may see lappery start to come into play later on, but for now he looks completely on his own out there, and it's up to Stefan Roth to jump through so as not to lose too much time in this. Here we go once again. Stevens and Denahan look as if they can stay out there pretty much indefinitely. They are running well on those hards, and I don't expect that they'll pit this lap, but keep your eye on it. And Ruot will go to the right-hand side, and he will go through into second place. Denahan pits.
Yeah.
So I was wrong.
So let's see where he comes out, if he will be in free air or not, I think.
And if you saw those two cars passing each other at the back of the shot as well, that was Winnick passing Pushke on the straight, so Winnick going through to P7. Yeah. Almost looks as if Denahan missed his box there, but the game registered it, so he's away.
I think in terms of position, it might not look that good for Denahan, but in terms of tire life and strategy-wise, this might be really good. So I think he did a more than a decent job there. And now he will have commiserations
to Jeffrey Fournier, who's just joined us in the YouTube chat. Sorry to see you out of the race so early, Jeffrey. Was it a connection issue potentially? I don't think Jeffrey was involved in the accident we saw earlier on, so it could have been a connection issue. We'll see if Jeffrey will let us know exactly what happened in that one. Up the hill we go. Stevens about to be under pressure from Stepkowski. Stevens looks to be lining up for the pit lane. You saw him let the other drivers know by jinking right the way over to the left, and this gives Pansar an opportunity. Pansar to the outside, braking later into turn one, but Stepkowski has the line. Pansar then puts the car back into line to try to set himself up for the straight. Tom Stevens makes his stop, but probably for another set of hards, because he is still on a two-stop strategy. It looks as if Stepkowski was able to fend off Robin Pansar down into turn 4. So Stepkowski fends off Pansar's first real chance. And there you saw, actually, that was a really good shot, that last one, because you saw all 4 of the leading drivers in one shot with no traffic in between them or behind them, and no traffic anywhere to be seen up in front of them either. And those are the top 4 drivers in the race now, having seen all of the pit stops.
Rowe with a big slide. Stefan Rowe nearly lost his car there. It was a big power slide, and he managed to go for it, but he is on it, and I think he wants to eat a bit of his deficit back from Matthias Moos, but he didn't do it on that lap. But it was looked a bit like a power slide going on the the last part of the or beginning of sector 3, so that was very, very interesting.
Unfortunately, it looks like Jeffrey was involved in an accident earlier on of some variety, and he is not very happy about it. Philip Pushke in the pits now, and that means that our order, or the order that you see, is pretty much the the net order of the race, we've had pretty much all of the drivers who need to stop come in for their stops. Fabio Six has made up a few places in that stint. Who else has gained? Well, of course, we saw Moose and Rurok gain because it was Stepkovsky leading before the pit window. Pushke is going to come out P18. Stevens comes out P13, Denham P14, so that's where those two come out. They're right together once again, and of course on a very different strategy to a lot of the other drivers around them. So we'll keep you updated on their progress throughout the whole thing as well.
Daniel is quite
looks
close.
to be gaining on Rod, doesn't he?
Yes, and Robin Panzer is actually, well, how do you say it, chilling behind. He doesn't look to be in the fight, but he is actually very close. But I think for whatever reason, we look at the top three and not at Robin. Well, Robin is actually doing more than an excellent job following this group, and he's more or less the silent assassin of this race. Like, you're not noticing him, but he is there.
Indeed. So we are 30 laps into this race now. Mateus Moose leads, followed by Stefan Roth, Daniel Stepkovsky, then Panzer, Harvey, Winnick, Volburn, McGorgy, Sixter, and Bock, the top 10. That's Yannick Bock in P10 there after gaining some places, recovering from his issues earlier on. Where's Leon Bock? I actually can't see him in the order right now. He's still down in 22nd. He's actually in the pits right now, so Leon having a tough time of it. At least he's already wrapped up second in the championship, eh?
Yeah, that's at least really good for him, because his rivals look to do a good job this race potentially, and he is not in a point scoring position. So then it's good you have that lead on others in the championship.
It's worth noting that the fight between Moose and Roll is actually the fight for third in the championship, and of course because this is the final round, whoever comes out on top will be given that third place trophy, and certainly all to play for between the two of them. Just 1 second currently separates them. I don't know if either of them will be able to go to GPVWC Day to pick up their podium, their trophies, but they will get their trophy in the post if not. They need to fight for it first though. Only one of them can have it. There's Hygo Poom. Getting closer to Jukka-Pekka Lalu. Those two epic racing teammates, of course. Jukka-Pekka jumping in mid-season as a result of David Fiduk's unfortunate David Fiduk's unfortunate retirement. Don't know why I doubted myself for a second there. Up towards the end of this particular lap we go. Moose leading by less than a second now from Stefan Rolt. So Rolt and Stepkovsky and Panzer all have slipstream. There is a 4-car slipstream chain for the lead of this race. We're watching P12 though, but there are the leaders. You see them all together once again. There's only 2 DRS zones on this course. It seems to be a bit of a trend nowadays that race tracks are going towards 3 DRS zones, but just the traditional 2. For this one, you have the start-finish straight, and then you also have the one on the exit of turn 3. But it's beautifully designed actually. I love how the DRS straight on the start-finish line sets you up for the S's, and then the second DRS straight, and it's down into turn 4 where you really start to see whether your move is going to work or not. And another lap completed now with Stefan Roll less than a second behind our leader.
Oh, we've got a great battle for P11 upwards. It's the 2 epic racing cars, followed by Tom Stevens in the Adonis. Then we've got Jake Danahan in the VBM car and Agustin Canapino in the other Adonis. I should tell you that Epic and Adonis are both fighting for position in the championship. I actually had that in front of me. It was for P9 in the championship, which Epic is now ahead of Adonis on 3 points. So it will be interesting what will happen in that battle.
And
Well, we now
Stevens
see
gets
Tom
up the
Stevens.
inside.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to get through before Ferradura here because no, that's close. And Stevens does get it on the outside of the corner. Runs over the curb a little, but that's still within track limits because the game does not register it as being over track limits there. So Stevens will get up to P11.
Yeah, and I
Jumping
think
up ahead if I go P.
this is a bit of the problem now for the Epic guys because Tom Stevens pitted later, and both the Epic guys did an amazing job working together as a team. But now because Tom Stevens is now in between them, yeah, the one cannot help the other anymore, and I think Tom Stevens will be trying to overtake Jukka-Pekka Laulu sooner rather than later.
Only 1 point separating those two teams in the championship. You're absolutely right, Menno.
Yeah.
Very close for P9, and as it would stand, it would go the way of actually. Where's the other Adonis car right now?
It's behind, just behind the group. It's
Canapino. So you've got pretty much they're pretty much 2 by 2. I think it would just about go. Oh, and the move, and that's Tom Stevens.
Yes.
Diving through on Jukka-Pekka Laulu. Good move there. And that complicates the things. I was just about to say it would go the way of Epic, but no, I'm not so sure.
This is very interesting because is this smart what Tom Stevens did here? Because there will be DRS zones coming on. Jukka-Pekka Laulu might not have the pace of Tom Stevens, but Tom Stevens now needs to drive away, otherwise he will be reeled in by Jukka-Pekka Laulu on the DRS. So he needs to make sure that he drives away now. But he is so much quicker. Can't believe my eyes in that he put such a gap in between those cars in only one sector, so there is quite a bit of pace on that car. But we got 3 wide. It's Jake Dennehan who takes both Epics in an epic move. What a move from Jake Dennehan. He takes both of the yellow cars, and I didn't see that coming. I of course was looking at the battle because of the overtake of Tom Stevens, but Jake Dennehan was very committed to overtake there, and DRS helped him with that. But let's keep an eye on that battle between Epic and Adonis, Caitlin.
But we're going to see a replay now of that move down into turn 1. We're a little late with the replay, but we'll see it in a second, I think. There's Tom Stevens. Meanwhile, Fabio Sixto, who was the most recent car to pit. Oh, great move from Tom Stevens. Super last minute. Jukka-Pekka did not see that one coming. Fabio Sixto, who was the most recent car to pit, has just taken fastest lap of the race, so he is currently on for that. Wouldn't get an extra point as he stands because he's down in 17th position and he needs to be in the top 15. We're fast forwarding this particular bit of footage with Jake Dennehan, who lined up the 2 Epic Racing Team cars, and you're about to see a little bit of bravery here from Jake Dennehan. Goes to the inside of the 2 Epic cars who are already in their own little fight down into turn 1, and he makes it stick. Very, very nicely done there. Does run a little way over the track limits into turn 3. May have got a little warning for that in the game, but he will be okay. So, Ruhl's dropped back a bit, hasn't he? Ruhl was within a second of Mateus Moose. The gap now 1.7. Maybe a bit more.
And Stapkovsky now is very close. I think he will be overtaking because this is too close, I think. Unless one of them
vulnerable. Ruhl does not have the DRS from up in front. What can Pansar do as well? Can he line this up to make it another 3 wide situation? Well, they stay in the same order down into turn 1.
I personally can't believe my eyes that car of Ruhl was lightning quick even without DRS on that straight, because I thought it would have been easy for Stapkovsky to overtake, but no, it wasn't like that, and Stefan Ruhl was be able to defend and is still in P2. Could be potentially use of a lot of boost, of course, but we cannot see the boost usage, so it will be interesting. And Robin Panzer is getting pretty close, as does Thomas Harvey. Thomas Harvey now in P5, and he is catching the group. I would say he is also in the DRS of Robin Panzer, so he's more or less on the same pace. It's a top 5 battle with Maciej Mlinek actually just a bit behind now in P6, but only halfway. So a lot can happen.
Go again then, up towards the DRS zone. Stepkovsky about 4/10 back, so he's going to be a little too far back, I think. But still putting pressure on Stefan Roll, who cannot afford to slack. The gap for the lead now 2 seconds, so Moose is getting away. Just had a YouTube comment from Brazy, who says Jake has the overtake of the day. Yes, indeed, I would say that's a very well-deserved title. I guess another contender for that would be Roll going around the outside of Stepkovsky earlier on. That was another really good one.
We've got more options for overtake of the day, but I must say both overtakes we saw there were quite good, and also the one of Ruo with the DRS and the whole setting up was of course beautiful as well. So it is you already see a lot of beautiful and clean racing, and not only from Ruo and Denhan, but also from others. So it's a good track for overtaking and for a lot of different strategies.
And we got a long way to go. Right, this looks closer, doesn't it? Let's keep an eye on Daniel Stepkovsky, who will have the overspeed now. Gets the DRS open. And what can he do about Stefan Rolt down towards turn 1? Rolt's car is so quick in that straight. Look at that. Stefan Rolt maintains second position, only just. But if you watch the two next thing on the bottom right of the screen, it barely seemed to change between Rolt and Stepkovsky down that straight. They were separated by 0.3 seconds the whole way down. And that just shows you that Rolt's car without DRS is about as fast as Stepkovsky's car with DRS. And this is why you want to be quick in a straight line, because right now, Stepkovsky, sure, I mean, he's the fastest car around a lap, but Stefan Roll is maintaining second and you know, seemingly could do indefinitely. He's now got a big chain of cars behind him. Panzer's joining in, Harvey's joining in. Soon we're going to have Winnick involved as well. He's only 3 seconds back and gaining. There's another car in there who's a lap down. So yeah, you've got Stefan holding up a huge chain of cars because they just cannot pass him because his setup is exactly what it needs to be. Watch this, it's going to happen again.
Yeah. Oh, they're going all into the pits.
And they all come into the pits. Oh, that's beautiful. So in come Roll, in comes Stepkovsky, and in comes Panzer. All three of them in a line. Does mean that Harvey has a bit of clean air. He's up there with Chris Shepherd, who's a lap down. Stepkovsky, Panzer, and we'll update you on...
the best pit stop? No.
We'll update you on what tyres they're on soon. And yeah, absolutely status quo on pit exit, as it would presumably be. Sometimes it can change. Lap 40 now, and they're going to exit right into some traffic. There's some cars coming through, actually splitting them. That's very close behind. And they both go past. Was that Hygo Poom potentially?
Yeah, Hygo Poom, yes.
And Augustin Canapino was the other car who came up right with them. Yanis Volber now separating Panzer from the other two cars he came out with.
Yeah, and that's how it goes. Sadly for Robin, he finds a bit of traffic on his way, but that's a strategy. It's just a bit unlucky there.
So there's Moose into the pits now from the lead. Thomas Harvey will lead the race. The Gorky will go back up to third. There's Yannick Block on a recovery drive. He still stands a good chance at some strong points today. He'll definitely be in the top 10 if he continues at this rate. Now, when Moose comes out of the pits, I would love to see the graphic of what tyres everyone's on, if that's absolutely okay. I'm expecting it's still going to be all hards pretty much, but I just want to check just to make absolutely sure. He looks to be on hards, but sometimes it doesn't update itself just yet. And Matthias comes up just behind Tom Stevens. Not particularly great placing for Matthias, but he's still ahead of Rock and Stepkovsky. And of course, he split them with Jake Dennehan.
Yeah, Dennehan is the buffer for Matthias Moose, so it's of course not ideal for Matthias to have Tom Stevens in front, but yeah, he's got that buffer which is Jake Dennehan, so it's I think not the worst place for him to be in, and still having that virtual lead as it looks now.
There we go then. Pretty much everyone on hards. Jan Dragoon, the only driver on mediums right now. and David Yunt, the only driver on softs. Of course, the drivers who started on hards and have run the race to this point on hards, such as, and there's the move, Matthias Moose going past Tom Stevens, but yes, Jake Dennehan and Tom Stevens, for example, who started on the hard tyres, they still need to use another compound at some point, so they still need to come in for a second stop to either put on mediums or softs, presumably mediums, because they work quite well for Yannis Vorburn earlier in the race. Stefan getting closer to Jake Dennehan. And yeah, we'll have to see what Stevens and Dennehan decide to do, but I'm definitely expecting them to go onto mediums with about 20, maybe 22 or so laps to go. That's about...
I think it depends on how long they can stretch it. If they can really stretch it long, they could even go to maybe to the soft tire, but it all depends on how long they can take it.
I'm not sure the soft tyre is actually a particularly good tyre to be on even for short stints here, because...
Yeah, I think the question I have then in that, how is the car responding with high fuel and in low fuel? Maybe in low fuel it's much better while Omagagi pits.
Yeah, no refueling here, of course, so low fuel means later in the race, Stefan Roll goes past.
Means Jake much less wear on the tires, so maybe you can take the same compound 2 laps longer or 3 laps longer when you've got less fuel on.
It's like using an eraser. If you don't put much pressure on it, you don't put much weight on it, it doesn't wear that much. But if you put all of your weight on it, it absolutely melts itself and scrapes itself apart on the page. And the same thing happens when you put a whole load of fuel in a car. It just becomes so heavy and rubs the tread off the wheels and all of that. Not that there is any tread, but it rubs the surface off the wheels. Anyway, there's McGorgy in the MDR. Hashtag send it on the rear wing, although I'm sure he won't be intending that as advice for the cars behind. And into the pits now. That looked like Yannick Bock to me.
Wow, Stefan Rowe overtakes Tom Stevens.
Okay, apparently we're having issues with the broadcast overlay. Apologies about that. I've been noticing that today. There have been a few kind of flashed on and off a few times, and now it seems to have forgotten the on bit. But anyway, we will try to keep you updated. We do have live timing and all of that, so it is still doable. Yannick exiting the pits, and if you couldn't tell which of the two Bocks it was, he's got Yannick written in bold letters along the side of his car.
And a little touch of Yannis Roburn at Jake Dennehan, a very late move. Was more or less a luck from Yannis Roburn, but yeah, he passed Jake Dennehan. That was a very interesting move, but it was good, and Jake Dennehan saw it coming, so overtake from Yannis Roburn for P6 now, and he's in the big group of cars who are now going to the start finish.
Harvey's in, so Matthias Moose will retake the lead of the race, and Harvey might actually gain a bit from the stint because his main rivals got very stuck in traffic on the exit. There is Yannis Vorburn, who we're watching. There were a couple of cars going side by side into turn 1, weren't there? I didn't quite see who that was, but it looked as if someone up ahead was going for a move. And Vorburn lining up Tom Stevens up the inside, and goes through, and it looks as if Stevens was having trouble getting through the corner. And he loses out now to Panzer as well, so not ideal there from Stevens. Now, Panzer has actually been jumped by Vorburn during this race, hasn't he? Because I thought Panzer was ahead of Yannis earlier on. Unless I'm very much mistaken. I think that happened in one of the pit windows we've seen. But yeah, those two drivers still really sticking with the top 3 or 4. It looks as if they could still be in contention for a podium later on today. Apparently we're about to lose images because our broadcaster is going to have to restart the game. Okay, thank you very much for updating us on that, Szymon. Is the stream going to stay online? Are we going to be a radio broadcast? Okay, so Okay.
Will be a radio broadcast. Oh, that's always fun. So we can tell you that Matthias Moes now is leading. Stefan Rowe actually closed up quite a bit. So yeah, he lost a bit at the end of the last stint, but now he's gaining that all back. And now he's in DRS and fully fighting for that win. Daniel Staskowski P3 and his Wolborn, yeah, very good P4, and Robin Panzer now P5. And now you see Tom Stevens already. Same with Jake Dennehan. They are further into their second stint, so they are now already losing the touch to the top 4 or top 5 who are already pitted later. It's just if you are on the same tire later, then it gives you a little bit of more performance. That's we now see with the top 5, with Tom Stevens and Jake Dennehan just hanging on for dear life.
So welcome everyone to GPVWC FM. This is lap 46 of 71 of the Brazilian Grand Prix, and it's currently Matthias Moes leading by just a couple of tenths of a second actually from Stefan Roll. It got a lot quicker, a lot closer after the pit stop. Still though, Moes with the advantage and appeared to be fast enough to get away from Stefan Roll, so we'll be keeping our eyes on what he can do in this stint of the race. These drivers will potentially be going to the end from here because they have all bolted on another set of hard tyres which can run for quite a long time. And if you do the maths, they ran maybe 30 laps on the hards. There's another 30 laps to go. They can absolutely do it from here. The exceptions, of course, are Tom Stevens and Jake Dennehan running 6th and 7th because they started on hard tyres and they are now on another set of hard tyres, meaning that they will have to stop again for a set of either softs or mediums, presumably mediums. Fabio 6th has been a bit of an oddball in this race, so I haven't quite been able to work out exactly what he's doing on strategy. And the same goes for a few people slightly further down the order who we haven't really paid enough attention to just yet. Yannick Bock is on a bit of a recovery drive after getting involved in an incident earlier on, and he is currently in 13th position. That same incident involved Leon Bock, who had to pit for a front wing, and he unfortunately...
Oh, overtake from Harvey on Dennehan. Harvey is there. No, he cannot pass Dennehan here, but he will have DRS, but I think so does Dennehan. Who will be faster? And it's Thomas Harvey who overtakes Jake Dennehan for P7, that is. And now Thomas Harvey is lining up another victim, and that's Tom Stevens, who doesn't seem to have the pace. And yeah, Thomas Harvey pitted later, so he should have much more pace and will be passing the Adonis driver soon.
Thank you, Menno. If something does happen out on track, you are going to have to let me know because I cannot see the track right now. My game didn't load up earlier on, so unfortunately, you're the only one of the three of us right now, including the broadcast director, who actually has eyes on the circuit. But anyway, this live timing screen is doing me well. David Yunt actually just got another fastest lap of the race a couple of laps ago. He's out there on soft tyres having a whale of a time. And apparently we're about to get pictures back. Jolly good. Thank you to Szymon for all of your hard work for
Thomas Harvey does overtake Tom Stevens for P6. He was putting in a very fast lap time. He now passed him at the start-finish straight. Let's see what the others can do. Actually, Maciej Mlinek is now attacking Tom Stevens, and I think he will not overtake him here, but yeah, already seems to be much quicker than Tom Stevens, and I think we'll line him up at the start-finish straight. You see the cars who pitted quite late, having a lot of trouble. Actually, there was a move from Maciej Mlinek already, and he overtook Tom Stevens, but Tom Stevens actually fighting back in Sector 2. Now approaching the end of Sector 2 with Maciej Mlinek and Tom Stevens. Now going head to head. But it is Maciej Mlinek who has got just much more grip on his set of tires, and he is now comfortably ahead of Tom Stevens. So your top 10 now is as follows. Fabio Sixta P10, Jake Dennehan P9, Tom Stevens P8, Maciej Mlinek P7, Thomas Harvey P6, P5 for Robin Panzer, Dennis Wolburn is very close in P4, then P3 Daniel Stepkowski with P2 Stefan Rowe, and leading Matthias Moes. And actually we've got the footage back.
Okay, we do have pictures back, but it's time for the moment of truth. Do we have the overlay? Is that something we have? Because that's what was struggling before. I think we
Yes.
do. Jolly good. Thank you very much, Szymon and Frelik, for getting these issues sorted out.
Yeah.
So there you see the order. It's Matthias Moos leading by less than a second still from Stefan Roll. Stepkowski, Vorburn, Panzer, they're all in close attendance. So it's a 5-car DRS train for the lead of the race right now. And that is what we like to see, especially heading towards the latter stages of this race. I think Vorburn may still... Oh, it's another stop, mighty. When did Vorburn last pit? Do you see that, Menno?
Yeah, I can see that. Let me look when that was. I think that was lap 36, if I'm not mistaken.
Lap 36. Yes. So he
needs to go on.
Actually, that's about. I mean, that's about 35 laps to the end of the.
Yeah, that's too long. I think unless you're Janis Vorburn. Opens his inner tire whispering skills,
it's
but otherwise
though, isn't
it is very far, but I fear that there will be no rubber around the tire left if he pushes it that long. But maybe he will try it. We have no idea how much he can save it. Maybe he already committed himself to a very, very long stint and actually is driving. Like everybody's grandmother to make sure the tires do last quite a long time. But yeah, 36 or 35 laps is a very long way to go. So could very well that he will still be pitting for another time. But
I agree. I mean, I don't think he's going to get P4 anymore, but I'm not going to say that he's definitely coming in for another stop because it's certainly not guaranteed. Anyway, unfortunately, it appears we've lost 2 more drivers from the race since last time I updated you on DNFs. Ada Erkan and Steven Lexo are both out, both in their fight for their own teams not to be last in the championship, Green Stripes versus MDR. Unfortunately, they both lost a car each. And there is Fabio Sixter in the pits now on a little bit of an oddball strategy. And he will probably go onto medium tyres from here. Which of course will mean that even if he started... No. Unless it's still yet to update. I thought he started on the hard tyres too. Unless he started on the mediums.
Can you tell me, Caitlin, can you tell me currently where the Pescara drivers are driving and where the MDR drivers are driving?
So Alessandro Quinte, unfortunately, is out for Pescara. The other Pescara is Dylan Platt, who is only 17th right now, so 17th. No points for Pescara. Whereas MDR, they've lost Steven Lexo, but they do still have Owen McGorgy, who's running in 10th position.
10th position. So if I look at the standings, it's now 32 points for Pescara and 27 points for MDR. MDR would gain, if I'm not mistaken, 6 points if...
That's true.
Omagaki finishes in P10. If Omagaki finishes in P10 and Pescara is not scoring...
Ryan Elliott's had an incident, sorry, Menno. Let's take a look at this. This is a replay of what's just happened. He's fighting out there with... Is that Jan Dragoon? He goes to the outside of Jan, goes into the corner, and... He loses it all by himself, actually, and slams into the wall, loses both the front and rear wings.
That's an unfitting end for that football car, unfortunately, or the VBM car.
Still appears to be in the race, but unfortunately losing plenty of time.
Yeah, you're not going to give up now in this last race. You want to get it to the finish line just because of what the team meant. So I think they will repair that, while in other races they might have just, withdraw and retire the car.
And Janis Vorburn comes into the pits. Another thing, sorry, that I forgot to mention is that Musto GD Esports aren't here, and therefore, if Green Stripes score 5 more points in this race, that means that they would end up beating Musto in the championship, and it would be Musto who would be last of the 15 teams. To score 5 points, you would need to get a driver to finish P11, and currently the top Green Stripes car, Jan Dragoon, is only P19.
Not happening, at least at the moment. So, but getting back on the MDR Pescara part is that if the Pescaras are not scoring, and if Omagagi gets P10 in the championship, or P10 in the race, sorry, then I think MDR will overtake Pescara ADG with 1 point. And I can tell you that could be from huge importance. So I think that's what they're looking at.
And it does have a big importance as well. It goes into deciding which teams are relegated, which can stay in Super League. And of course, it influences various other things right now that we don't have time to get into. Back to the fight for the lead. It keeps looking as if Moose is getting away from Raw, and then Raw brings the gap back in again. His last lap was slightly quicker than Matthias Moose's last lap. And you can see how close the two of them are. That's been the case for a while. Well, they haven't been quite that close. They've been within a second. Matthias Moose Stefan Roh theoretically has a slightly faster best lap than Matthias Moose by about 1/10 of a second. But that really doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things, because each of these individual laps has much more weight on it than that. Robin Panzer was one of the fastest drivers on that last lap. He was catching right back up to the scrap. He was about half a second faster than Stefan Roh, and getting well and truly involved. Still a potential podium on the cards for Robin Panzer. Back up the hill once again, flags waving in the grandstands. 16 laps to go. There'll be 16 laps included in the one that we've just gone on to, so we're in the latter stages. And
Well,
still,
Tom Stevens and Jake Hanahan both pit.
yes, they would have needed to, so this will be about the right time, and they will be going on to, let's see, are they going on to mediums, or have they stayed out long enough to go straight onto softs? They could just about do it on softs. Not sure they're going to want to, but anyway, into the box they go. Tyres loading. Well, I hope they've remembered to change tyres, because that was the whole point of them pitting right now. There you go, nice yellow sidewall tyres for Denahan and Stevens there, who are going to race to the end. Wasn't Stevens ahead of Denahan?
Yes, it was a bad stop from the squad.
Yeah, so Denahan jumped Stevens there.
Yeah. And that was that. Well, now Pescara is in P13 again, so that point Pescara needs. So
yeah, not entirely sure where Dylan Platt is on his strategy though, so it's not as straightforward as that. Down into turn 1, Roth's last lap about the same as Matthias Moose's, pretty much exactly the same. There is Daniel Stepkowski and Yannick Bott going for a move on Owen Magorgi. Finally, he's caught back up to him, goes up to P7. Magorgi fighting back though. Verstappen Ocon flashbacks. Now we head down through the second DRS zone towards turn 4. Bott will have the inside line, but Magorgi made a statement there, fighting back in the least developed car on the grid against the GPVWC Teams Champions car. And Owen has been super impressive so far today. We knew he could drive already, but he's really showing it today. Stevens passes Dylan Platt and pushes Pescara out of that position. They only have a car in 15th position now, due to Alessandro Quinte's unfortunate earlier retirement. 23 cars remaining in this race now. Looks like 20 of them are on the lead lap. Although with a lap this short, more lappery is sure to be inevitable. Jake Denahan, the top driver on any tyres other than hards right now. We have 14 laps remaining, including the one that we are on right now. In terms of lap times as well, I've been noticing that even though the drivers at the top of the order are fighting, they're actually all very close to their personal best laps in this race. Matthias Moose did just set his personal best lap, a 109.382. It's not quite as fast as the fastest laps of the cars behind him. In fact, it's one of the slowest fastest laps of the race that there is, if that makes any sense. The fastest lap so far has been set by David Yunt still, although once again he would not actually claim a point for fastest lap like that. He would still get it in the official records, so I guess there's the statistic to fight for. Now on that lap, I'm not sure whether Roar actually did get the DRS from Matthias Moos. He's right on the buffer now. Right on the 1 second buffer. Both of them set their own personal best fastest laps of the race that last time around. And actually Moos's was slightly quicker, so Matthias Moos demolished his fastest lap of the race and gained 2 seconds over Stefan. And this is a really important point in this race to see whether Roar can get back within a second of Matthias Moos. Of course, the gap will fluctuate throughout different parts of the lap, and the part where you really need to be within a second is the DRS detection zone, because that is where it counts. Out through the center S's they go. There's the battle of the first graphic. You see Roar just outside of that 1 second margin. I don't think he's going to get DRS this lap. He's going to just about lose out. Moos has been really pushing these past few laps, and it's been working. Although the gap seemed to go back down within a second again. Roar's lap 0.3 faster. I think Moos may have made a mistake out of the penultimate corner. Maybe just got on the throttle a bit too quickly and had a twist.
Yeah.
Sorry, Menno.
Or it is, of course, maybe Stefan Rowe has waited for the longest time now. He knows with around 10 laps to go, it's time to, now go for the win, and maybe he's going full in now and shows his cards. He's in now putting them all on the table. It could be happening soon. The question I have is Rowe actually fast enough to overtake, or is he just there at the how do you say, the skin of his teeth? Is he just following with DRS, and is Matthias just much quicker? That's the question what remains. But Stefan looks quite racy now, more racy than in some other parts of the race. So I think he's fully going into this battle now. It's actually going very close now.
Oh, it's very close. Stefan Roll has gained massively on that last lap. His last lap was half a second faster than Matthias Moos. Now he's launching the charge with 11 laps remaining.
Look at Robin Panzer. I think Robin Panzer will go to P3 sooner or later. I think he already goes to P3.
Panzer challenging. He's up the inside of Stepkowski. Goes through with the DRS. Robin Panzer makes the move stick with a much better exit out of turn 3. Oh, Stepkowski got over the curbs on the outside there. That's going to cost him even more time and potentially drop him back towards Harvey. Vorburn's pitted since last time I looked. He's now down to P9. There's Hygo Poom. He's behind Fabio Sixter. But yes, with 11 laps remaining, it got very close between the leaders that last time around. And now they have Panzer to worry about too, who may have the speed to catch them. Tomasz Vok, that's the fastest lap of the race so far. My goodness, and it's faster. That's almost a qualifying lap. That would be quicker than the qualifying laps from Tomasz Vok. He's absolutely flying out there. He's not in the points, but even so, incredible lap from Tomasz Vok. Why couldn't he do that in qualifying? Anyway, back to the race. There are the leaders, and there are Stepkowski and Harvey.
And I'm very surprised that Daniel Stepkowski is actually not maintaining his speed. He was so fast for, I think, nearly the whole race, but this run, it just seems to got away with him a bit, and sad to see, because he had so much pace. So let's see if he can get back on it. Oh, Hygo Poom
has been into the pits. Oh, I think Vorburn and McGorgy just swapped places. So Vorburn with the move. Yeah, up into 8th place. Vorburn has been into the pits much more recently, weaving about there in front of McGorgy. Maybe just either celebrating or maybe showing his displeasure at something. Sure. I guess we'd need to see the context for that. But anyway, there they are on the exit of the corner. McGorgy doing an awesome job. Yannis Vorburn very quick at this point in the race as well. There are the leaders. We know how fast Raw is in a straight line, so it's going to be exciting if Raw catches up even more. he could definitely challenge for the lead, I think. Matthias Moose still has it for the time being. The last laps were pretty much the same.
Well, we've got an overtake for P10. It's Fabio Sixta now close to Agustin Canapino. And Fabio Sixta goes to P10.
Indeed, very well done. Fabio Sixta up to P10, and he will likely stay in the top 10 because, of course, he has pitted quite recently. Here's a replay, and this will be the move for Yannis Vorburn. Bit of markings on the tyres, maybe some lockups or something from Yannis Vorburn. Here's the move. Ooh. Wasn't left much space, but he was left some space and went through. That'll look fair. Not entirely sure why he was wiggling and weaving, but anyway. There you go. Just celebrating, something like that. Goes up into P8 nonetheless. And here are the leaders once again, about 0.3 of a second across the start-finish line. This is great stuff. It seems to be every single time, Menno, that we get the leaders closing up towards the end of a Super League race and having a true, proper fight for the ages, because it just, the strategies just seem to work that way, and the drivers are all so close, and the series is so close, and it's just all so good. I don't quite understand how this happens every single time, but it does, and it leaves it completely unpredictable right up until the very last moment.
Well, Agustin Canapino pits.
I don't know what the biggest win so far this season has been. It's probably something like 5 seconds. I can't remember having a win bigger than that. Maybe Monaco, where it all kind of got a bit chaotic towards the end. But yeah, brilliant year of GPVWC in terms of the actual racing we've had on track, even if we haven't had much of a championship fight recently. Stefan Roth now has another opportunity. You can see that Moose is nervous. You can see the body language of the car as he moves to cover off Stefan Roth behind to try to break the toe, stop him from getting the slipstream. Here's another DRS zone. That's very close for Stefan Roth. He's gaining. He goes to the right. Stefan Roth will be shown the outside. And just like he did to Daniel Stepkowski, Stepkowski runs around the outside of turn 4. He will have the inside line for Ferradura. Who's the bravest?
Oh,
and Stefan Roth. And they do touch slightly, but Stefan Roth takes the lead of the race in terrific style, just like he did to Stepkowski earlier on. He has now done to Matthias Moose. And can anyone stop him?
Now, the interesting thing is now is that they were a second ahead of Robin Panzer, but because of this hard fight, now Robin Panzer, I think, is at least in DRS, and he takes the whole group with Stepkowski, Harvey, Linek with him. So this will be very interesting. I will look if Robin Panzer has got DRS, but I think he might just have it. Well, Matthias Moose is going to attack again. Well, Robin Panzer has got DRS. Matthias Moose is looking to get back, but not here. But he looks still very good on braking. So it's still Stefan Roth leading. Matthias Moose now in P2, but no, this is not close enough for Matthias Moose. So Stefan Roth will now walk a bit away. Robin Panzer still in P3, and now Thomas Harvey will go for P4 on Daniel Stepkowski, but Daniel Stepkowski stays ahead for now, but Thomas Harvey isn't done. Thomas Harvey wants to go around the outside, and it is possible going around the outside if you try it and you get the room, but he didn't get the room. And now Mathieu Linek now in P6, he sees it all happening. It's one big snake, Caitlin, of cars. Top 6 are so close. This is pure advertisement for good racing.
This is how GPVWC works. This is amazing stuff, and this happens every single time. I would expect if I was an outsider and heard that statement that was an exaggeration, but it really isn't. This does happen every single time. Here we go again. We're going to have 5 laps to go after this lap, and any of 6 cars maybe could win this race. Across the start-finish line we go. 5 laps to go. 5 laps remaining, you see the confirmation. So Roth leads, then Moose, Panzer, Stepkowski, Harvey, Winnick, Bock, Vorburn, McGorgy and Six are the top 10. The rest of the points right now would be Denahan, Stevens, Pushke, Lalu and Hygo Poom claiming the last point, but still, these last 5 laps could throw up all sorts of challenges and surprises, you never know. Leon Bock's been lapped, meanwhile, I'm afraid to say. Been an awful day for him. He has not been able to recover after his issues earlier on. There's a yellow flag out there somewhere. Been a rather clean race after the start. I know the first lap was rather torrid, but after that it's been okay. I think Philip Pushkin maybe lost a place there.
Yeah, lost a place to the epic car of Luca Pecchialalu. And now it will be very interesting, because now what's the gap between the Adonis and the epic cars? So I believe it's 4 points for Adonis, and 1, 2, 3. Also 4 points for epic. So then it will be epic who's ahead of Adonis in the standings. But Augustin Canopino now is in P16 and just made a pit stop. So it will be mighty close between the fight between epic and Adonis. So we will follow that to the line. But it's interesting.
Shout out to my friend Abby, who's just messaged me with the word exciting with several G's, because indeed, very exciting, coming into the closing stages of this race. 6 cars in a DRS train challenging for the lead of this race. And Vrul, even though he got past Maurice seemingly easily, well, I didn't exactly look easy, but he was certainly going very fast. He's not being able to pull away because it's mainly the straight where he's actually quicker. That's why he was able to overtake. But also, it means that Moose is able to keep up in the corners and keep the gap close. We have, I think it's going to be 3 laps to go after this one. Across the start-finish line once again. 3 laps to go in the race now and in the season, and that, well, Harvey took a look at Stepkovsky and Stepkovsky left the door open. He's going to be off the line through turn 3 and on the exit. Harvey will have the DRS, Stepkovsky will have the DRS too from Panzer up in front, but Harvey will get the run, goes to the inside and goes up to P4. Fantastic stuff from Thomas Harvey. What can he do about setting off to the podium?
And it's not so late for Thomas Harvey. It all depends how are they with fuel, how are they with push to pass, because if somebody like Thomas Harvey's got all the push to pass left, while the others haven't, he would be still in it. So it's very exciting. We've got, let's say, 6 cars in the top 6, of course, but 5 of those are in different teams. The top 5 different teams, 5 different upgrade packages on the car, and yeah, it all seems to be working. And yeah, we've got amazing race with a few laps to go. What a send-off, Caitlin.
2 laps to go now in the 2022 GPVWC Super League season. Shout out to Tomasz Vok as well, who's just set a lap that would have put him easily on pole position. That is amazing stuff. Obviously the conditions are better now than they would have been in the race, but in qualifying, but still, that's not what you would expect to see. Look at Maciej Winnick, who gets the run on Daniel Stepkovsky, and Stepkovsky, who took pole position earlier on, has been dropping back since then, I'm afraid to say, and looks to be set for only 6th position in this race. There's Harvey on Panzer, he's caught him already, and he's going for the move, tried to force him off the line through Ferradura. Now into the center S as we go, and there's no way through. He's going to be so frustrated, apart from when they reach the straights potentially. Here's Matthias Moos, still on the back of Raw, heading towards the final lap of the race. It almost looks like a repeat of a year ago, when going on to the final lap we had a move for the lead. The only difference being that was for the championship. Is there going to be any change for the lead on this last lap? A lap which could see any one of a number of drivers coming out on top. It's not going to happen down into turn 1. Final lap of the race and the season now. Down into turn 1 they go. Matthias Moos trying to line up Stefan Rohr for the second straight. It looks as if Rohr is going to be safe for that straight. And so long as he can keep it under control for the rest of the lap, I would expect that he's got this victory, but as Yannis Volburn's going to attack
Danahan lost his front wing.
Oh, and there's contact between Volburn and Bock. So Yannis Volburn and Yannick Bock both spin off the road down at turn 4. Yannis is going to come out ahead, and he's not giving it back, so he feels that it was Yannis' fault. We'll have to have another look back at that, and maybe the stewards will look at it too. Apparently Denahan's had an incident. That would make sense because I just saw a yellow flag. But whatever the case, nothing could stop Stefan Rol. It's been an awesome, awesome race. He's only just going to win it, but he is going to win it. He's got the straight line speed. Brilliant stuff from the reigning champion, Stefan Rol. And on a day which required racecraft, Stefan Rol was the bravest. Across the line he comes. Stefan Rol wins in Brazil yet again. Matthias Moos is second. Robin Pansar third. Then Harvey, Winnick and Stepkowski. All 6 drivers separated by less than a second from the car in front of them. Brilliant, brilliant race. Jannis Vorburn claimed P7 despite the collision with Yannick Bock. And here's what happened to Jake Dennehan. This is the collision that took him out of the points. He spun. Tom Stevens avoided him. And it was as he was trying to rejoin the road that he's just kind of dawdled into the wall there. That's a little clumsy from Jake Dennehan, I'm afraid to say, who maybe thought that he could turn his car around. Probably should have spun it a full 360. Here is the move from Jannis Vorburn. This is the collision that we're about to see. He went up the inside of Yannick Bock, and then unfortunately they made contact. No, Bock covered off the inside line, and then they made contact into turn 4. There's a touch. Make of that what you will. Off they both spun.
Yes.
But they both got points. Jannis claimed P7. Yannick Bock was P8. Then
And
Gorgi.
I hope we can see the finish between both the epic cars, Aigo Poom and Jukka-Pekka Lalu, because they were side by side over the finish line.
They've already finished, I'm afraid.
7 points scored by Adonis, 7 points scored by Epic Racing. So Epic Racing stays ahead of Adonis in the championship, bar, of course, the penalties. What a finish there. It was amazing to see, but we've got the results here.
Here you see the order, Menno. So Stefan Rol won this race only just over Matthias Moos, Robin Panzer, Thomas Harvey, Maciej Winnick, and Daniel Stepkowski, who may as well have been one entity crossing the line there. Jannis Vorburn P7 after the collision and doing donuts on the straight. I think that might be Thomas Harvey. Then it was Yannick Bock P8, Owen McGorgy P9. Amazing stuff from Owen McGorgy to claim P9 for MDR. P10 was Fabio Sixter, who finished for the first time in 11 races. Amazing. Well done, Fabio, and a well-deserved P10. Tom Stevens was P11, Aigo Poom P12, then Jukka-Pekka Lalu P13, Augustin Canapino and Philip Puschke claiming the final point. And just outside of the points were Jan Dragoon, so unfortunately Green Stripes will end up with the wooden spoon as far as the team's championship are concerned. As you see a collision doing donuts there. Dylan Platt P17, Chris Shepherd P18, then Jake Dennehan and Leon Bock, who sadly did not end the season in traditional Leon Bock fashion. Ryan Elliott was P21, didn't feel very well today, and unfortunately not going particularly quickly. David Yunt P22, Tomasz Falk P23, who wasn't really in the race for particularly long, but even so set a fast lap well good enough for pole position. And unfortunately we lost Stephen Lexo, Ada Erkan, Alessandro Quinte and Jeffrey Fournier. Oh, Menno, what a race. That was one of the races of the season, but my goodness, every single race this season has been so unpredictable and so tense.
Well, yeah, the track is of course very well for racing like this, but this was really good. So yeah, what a fight.
Doing donuts in celebration. Unfortunately, it is the end of the season. Stick around if you want to hear our end of season interviews with some of the most important drivers and personnel from this year. Probably going to give them an extra. Normally I do 4 interviews. We'll probably do 5 today just to make sure that everyone gets heard at the end of this season. We won't be able to get through all of them because I expect that there will be a lot of people jumping into that interview room after today, since it's the last chance for the year. So if you are listening to this and you want to speak to us, better get in quick. And all the cars are back in their pit garages now. This has been a season to remember, and we said that pretty much every season, but this truly has been. Doesn't quite top 2021 in my books, but not many seasons could. I think it sets us up really nicely for 2023, where of course Super League will be back along with all of the other support categories. Also, in a couple of days' time now, you've just let me know before this broadcast that there's going to be a one-off GPVWC Race of Champions event, Whether that's going to be live streamed or not remains to be seen, but I would really appreciate it if it was, and I would love to actually be involved in that, because that is going to be a lot of fun.
I do believe that's the plan, that we will stream that both days. It's a 2-day event, so we're looking into possibilities to stream that. So yeah, more on that later.
Well, now we have time for interviews. So first of all, we are going to bring into the interview room our race winner from today, Stefan Rohr. Stefan, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thank you. How are you guys doing?
Doing very well, thank you. That was an awesome race to watch, and I imagine it was just as fantastic from inside the car. Stefan, your winning margin in the end was just 0.8 of a second, 8.5 tenths of a second. That's close. What a fight you had there with Moose, Panzer, pretty much everyone else in the top part of the order. How was it from your point of view?
Yeah, it felt a little bit more like a chess game than a race, to be honest. Saving tires, saving P2P, just to have it left at the end of the race, so that you can, try to make the pass. And I knew I had a little bit more top speed than Matthias and I think Daniel, who was behind me for a long time. So I just tried to play with that, like save a little bit of tires in the midfield, and then use the top speed, save a little P2P when I have DRS. And I guess those guys were doing the same, but yeah, like I said, just felt more like a chess game than a race game. And in the end, I could make the final move stick.
Now, talking of moves, I'd like to talk to you about turn 4, because that, of course, is pretty much a 90-degree left-hander. And yet you figured out that by going around the outside of both Stepkowski earlier on, and then, of course, Matthias Moose later on, you could... Oh, sorry, I've got the hiccups. You could put the traction down, you could get it to the inside of Ferradura, and they'd have nothing to say to you. What a move! How did you figure out that you could do that? And why do you think they fell for it twice?
Well, I felt already in practice and qualifying that going wide there with my car felt good. So I knew I would have the traction. And then if you have the top speed, to get the run down to that fast corner, you have the inside. So I just went for it and left enough room for them to keep on driving. But I knew with top speed I would make it stick.
Indeed. Well, it certainly worked out. I'd like to quickly touch on this. There was a little kerfuffle on the first lap. What did you make of that with Yannick?
Yeah, it was really unfortunate. I really don't like that happened. I would check multiple times with my engineer, like, what should I do? Should I give the place back? Is there something that I should have done better? Up until that point, I think we had a really good fight for a couple of corners, but kind of put the squeeze on me, and it's a really 180-degree turn, and I was already on the curbstones. And going into the turn, we were really side by side. So I mean, on the right-hander, not the left-hander, of course. And then I think if you just left a little bit more room, then it would have been fine. But I could not disappear there, and I really don't like that it happened. So I'll definitely talk to him, see what he feels about it.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I've just watched it back, and I certainly feel that it was a racing incident. But anyway, fantastic victory today. It was your third win of the season. A bit of an up and down one for you. How do you feel about this year as a whole, and the fact that you are third in the championship at the end?
Yeah, I think looking back, like you said, a lot of up and downs. I wish I could have brought the fight to Yannick a little bit more throughout the season, but just missing a race, too many DNFs on street circuits. I mean, I lost the championship that I won last year, but last year I was very consistent, and this year I just was not. So that tells you that never too old to learn. So I'll take everything I have learned this year and then try to apply it to next year again. But all congrats to Yannick. I mean, that guy, if you look at his consistency, his podium finishes this year, it's just been amazing. So congrats to him again.
Are you staying with Epic for 2023?
It seems so. I'm not sure yet, but it seems so, and I'll stick around for GPV. I love this league, and thank you all for providing these broadcasts. I know a lot of people get enjoyment out of these, so thanks a lot for that.
Good. So sorry, I meant Edge, not Epic. My mistake. Yes, thank you very much, Stefan, and congratulations on your victory.
Thanks a lot, Caitlin.
Yeah,
Now,
Caitlin.
bizarrely, sorry, Menno. Yes.
Yeah, and I don't think we have other interviews. I think everybody who was there were just the race was so intense that everybody's actually I think having a drink or anything. When you see all those drivers getting out of their cars all soaked and like, oh, this was a hard race. I think everybody feels like this. That's especially from the top 6 drivers at the end there. But I believe we have no interviews, or do we have?
No, that's true, Menno. But I do want to get one more interview in, and luckily we've just had Hygo Poom jumping in. Now, Hygo ended up scoring a point for Edge. Hygo, sorry, Epic. I got them muddled up again. My goodness. Hygo, how are you?
Hello, doing a bit tired from the race.
I can imagine, yeah. So Hygo, you came into the season kind of halfway through, and this was your second points finish of the year. Do you feel like you're getting up to speed with the Super League car?
I was starting to get the hang of it. Yeah. At first, when I came in half the season, the car didn't have any drag updates, so even when I was able to stay around in the corners, it wasn't that great to drive around in the straight line when I felt like for Alonso.
Yes.
But now in the final races, apart from the technical DNFs I had, what has been a lot, it's been better.
It has indeed. Today as well, 15th position. That's gotta feel decent. There were a lot of fights around that position. Yeah. How did it feel out there, and how were the other cars around you?
It felt bumpy because every single corner was really bumpy. But I was just focusing on my own tires. The hard tires were needing to last a few extra laps, so that was my main focus. Only Agustin, I think, was really just consistently there. And that was a fight what was really important, because if I finished ahead of him, we stay ahead in the construction champions, and if he finished ahead of me, we would have lost that position. So that was also...
Sorry, Hygo, yeah, I've just noticed you're actually 12th. I don't know why I'm saying 15th, but yes, no, P12 from 21st on the grid actually isn't that bad.
What? I don't even remember the position. I think, yeah, it was P12. But yeah, it was mostly a focus on getting Epic to keep ahead of, I think it's Adonis.
Yes.
And we achieved that, so that was good.
Yeah, I just want to say
we really gambled with
about that.
The last stop being the soft tires, and that worked.
Go ahead,
and
Menno.
it was...
Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that was a very good fight at the end.
I can now hear Menno.
Yeah, well, I think it was a very good fight in the end, and you raced your teammate to the line and actually got it. So I think that was a bit of an adrenaline moment as well, Heiko, I think. Just to get your teammate on the line, I think it was really close.
We were trying to make a photo finish, but I think Lalo ran out of push the bus or something like that.
Yeah.
But I was mostly sticking behind him just in case Canapino got close, and just guaranteed that I have something to defend Lalo with.
Yeah. So yeah, with that you sealed it for Epic. So there was like we can say an epic finish there. So well done, Heiko.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hygo. Okay. Unfortunately, it looks as if that's all we've got time for today, because there are... Well, we would have time for more, but no one else has jumped into the interview room, so that's a bit sad. But anyway, Menno, what a season of GPVWC Racing. Do you have a highlight? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Yeah, well, I must say we now end the whole season not only for this series but for all the series, and I think overall, in all series, we had amazing battles. If we look at this series, we had a very good championship, a lot of racing on the line, with really good drivers. So I think everybody can be really proud of what they achieved. Um, the have a race like this that ended like this was amazing. And you had so much battles within battles. You had the battle for the race win with 6 people. We had the battle for P3 in the drivers championship. You had the battle between Epic and Adonis, and between what was it, Pescara and MDR. And I believe MDR now passed Pescara in the standings. So a lot of things happened, and yeah, to have that in the end of the season was just amazing. I think we can be very proud. Everyone who's involved, and even everyone who's watching and listening, we had an amazing season, and I can't wait for the next season, which would be, I believe, the 24th year.
Unfortunately, it's going to be a little bit of a while because we have to wait till about February or March, depending on when the race season is going to get going again.
But yeah, I think that's a good thing. If you race like nearly or
yeah,
3/4 of the year, you are working towards the finish of the championship, and now it's time to relax. Well, we will have another event coming in the Race of Champions, which we probably will stream. But then it's just relaxed. You need to have the off time, and of course for the Super League and Super Lights teams, the bidding for virtual sponsors and virtual personnel will start quite early. So yeah, we need to take that in account. But overall, I think 16 rounds this year, most of them were amazing. We had some a really good highlights, maybe a bit of bad luck with some races and some incidents, but that's how sim racing is and how it should be. They all go for it, and that's not what you get.
I think my highlights of the year, I think in Super League, probably Mexico. I think the final few laps of the Mexican Grand Prix were amazing. That was only 2 weeks ago, but what a race that was, with Pascal Pollens getting his first win. The moves on the grass happening behind him, great race. And probably my highlight of GPVWC as a whole this year was my double points finish at Spa. Got to run in the top 10 for a bit, so that was a lot of fun. Yeah. Enjoy, I hope that you all enjoyed this season of GPVWC as much as we did, and enjoyed this enjoyed this race, because it has been another cracker. And I very much hope that you will be joining us back again for 2023, because I'm sure that we will be doing much of the same. Maybe some new drivers, maybe some new teams, possibly a new car. We will have to wait and see. But for the time being, from me, Menno Klont, our broadcast director, Szymon Frelik, I'd also like to thank the race director, Chris Williamson, as well as the entire GPVWC modding team, media team, and community. But yes, from us, for now, it's goodbye.